Hey guys, so I am now in the 8th part of the Sengoku Jidai series by Kings and Generals. If you want to watch the original video, the link is down in the description down below, and if you enjoy my channel and you want to help me out in any way, shape, or form, feel free to please like, comment, subscribe, and maybe consider being like a Patreon YouTube member. It'd really help me out a lot, thank you. Now with that said, and now without any further ado, let's get to it. Let's watch more of Sengoku Jidai.
Along with that came the family name Toyotomi. Up to that point, the clan's name was officially Hashiba. What Hideyoshi had achieved could be said to be impossible. He had risen from humble origins, and now he had become a member of the old nobility, surpassing even the samurai class as a whole.
Dang.
He was second nominally only to the emperor. But since the latter lacked any real power, Hideyoshi was the true master of Japan. However, there were still loose ends.
Yeah, talk about he's like the living embodiment of the trope from rags to riches, right? Or from nobody to nightmare for his enemies. Just impressive, bro. This man's on a roll. If anyone can unite all of Japan, it's this man.
To tie up, and fancy titles given by the imperial court would not bring to heel the daimyo who only recognized the authority of the blade. So Hideyoshi personally took command of his army and marched to Echu province, controlled by Sasa Narimasa, who was still in open rebellion following the Battle of Komaki and Nagakute. The Kampaku's 100,000 strong force was not a match for Narimasa's troops, who were outnumbered 5-1. After a brief siege at Toyama, he surrendered. Ever gracious in victory, Hideyoshi allowed him to live, but stripped him of his territory, which he gave to Maeda Toshie. Narimasa would be relocated in 1587 to a small fief in Higo province on the island of Kyushu following its conquest. But we are getting ahead of ourselves because in 1585 the Tokugawa clan was once again at war. Sanada Masayuki was refusing to hand over Numata to the Hojo, and Ujimasa was asking Ieyasu to force his vassal to act on the terms of the peace deal. In June of that year, Ieyasu advanced with his army into Kai to show Masayuki he meant business. But this only served to strengthen the latter's resolve, who decided to break his ties with the Tokugawa and once more side with the Uesugi. To that end, Masayuki sent his second son Yukimura as hostage to the Uesugi. Of course, Masayuki's defiance could not go unpunished, so Ieyasu sent Tori Mototada, Okubo Tadio, and Hiraiwa Chikayoshi with 7,000 men to capture Ueda Castle, where Masayuki had transferred his seat, and was waiting with around 1,200 men. His eldest son, Nobuyuki, was put in charge of defending the nearby Toshi Castle. Knowing that his numerical strength wasn't enough to oppose Ieyasu's troops, since Ueda had not been finished yet, Masayuki asked Uesugi Kegeketsu for assistance. However, Kegeketsu was otherwise occupied at that moment, assisting Hideyoshi with suppressing Sasa Narimasa in Echu. Consequently, he sent only a fragment of his forces, which still nevertheless posed a threat to the Tokugawa side. In addition, Masayuki ordered the construction of various traps and obstacles in the castle, and told his men to lure the Tokugawa soldiers inside Ueda. Thus, when the Tokugawa army assaulted the castle, it all went according to Masayuki's plan. Mototada's men were easily able
Oh snap, are they about to get flanked?
to push past the first line of defenses and make it to the second bailey. It was then that the trap was sprung, and Masayuki's men counterattacked while archers and arquebusiers unleashed devastating volleys. A fierce battle began, and with casualties mounting, the Tokugawa forces were slowly pushed back. However, the various obstacles and traps the Sanada had placed made their retreat difficult. At that time, Masayuki signaled to his son Nobuyuki to attack, and he assaulted the Tokugawa force on their flank, completely breaking their morale. Mototada's men were routed.
The flank, the oldest trick in the book. But I was gonna say, I was about to like critique Masayuki, especially like last episode. Like, he really wanted this castle because it was in between like what 3 different provinces. And I was gonna be like, you're kind of playing a really dangerous game, dude. Just, I know he wants that castle hard, but like just to straight up like open hostilities. But okay, he seems competent. I have to say, I have to give him his flowers in this one. Like, you know, and making an alliance where he can. Okay, alright. Like, I guess he's not gonna go down as easy as I thought he might have. So that's really interesting.
Leaving behind 1,300 dead, many of them drowned in the Kamikawa River. In the opposite camp, the victorious Sanada is said to have suffered only 40 casualties. The following day, the Tokugawa force attacked Mariko Castle, an underlying fortress in the area, but once again they failed. A similar fate faced a Hojo attack on Numata Castle, which Masayuki's uncle, Yawaza Noritsuna, defended. Soon after, Kagekatsu's forces arrived in the area and began skirmishing with the Tokugawa. Seeing that the situation had turned for the worse, Ieyasu ordered a temporary retreat of his troops to regroup and reorganize, even holding back a 5,000-strong regiment led by Ii Naomasa that was underway to reinforce Mototada's army. But there would be no renewed assault on Sanada's positions, as one of Ieyasu's most loyal and important vassals up to that time, Ishikawa Kazumasa, defected to the Toyotomi, which forced Ieyasu to rethink his position.
Dang.
Perhaps fearing another attack from Hideyoshi, he decided to abandon the campaign against the Sanada altogether.
Dang.
Masayuki's great victory at Ueda established him as a great tactician among the warriors of Japan. It earned him the respect of Ieyasu, who arranged to have Nobuyuki marry Honda Tadekatsu's daughter, Komatsu Hime. Realizing his war with the Hojo would probably not end as long as he held Numata, and realizing he needed a stronger protector than Kagekatsu, Masayuki approached Toyotomi Hideyoshi and pledged his allegiance to him. Unlike the
Just everyone keeps going to Hideyoshi, bro, and he keeps gaining more and more power. I have to give it to him. That was an impressive resistance there. He basically managed to defeat Ieyasu, man. Which is, again, just very impressive.
Conquest of Shikoku, which was a relative breeze for Hideyoshi's professional troops, Kyushu would be a tough nut to crack. At that time, the island was mostly under the control of the Shimazu clan, a family with long military traditions that had waged long wars in an effort to unite Kyushu under their rule. In 1586, they were engaged in a bloody conflict with the Otomo clan of Bungo province, their last obstacle. In May, fearing a defeat, the head of the clan, Otomo Sorin, sent an embassy to Osaka to ask the Toyotomi for assistance against the Shimazu threat. At that time, Hideyoshi was otherwise engaged in the pacification of Ki and preparing for the invasion of Shikoku, so he couldn't immediately intervene. Following his appointment as Kanpaku and taking advantage of his new authority, he issued an edict calling for the cessation of all hostilities in Kyushu, an order that Shimazu Yoshihisa promptly ignored. Thus, in October of that same year, the Toyotomi alliance made its first moves in Kyushu. Kobayakawa Takakage, who had proven his merit in Iyo, landed and acquired a foothold in Buzen. Meanwhile, the newest addition to the alliance, Chosokabe Motochika, led his samurai to Bungo, with the assistance of Sengoku Hidehisa and Sogo Masayasu. From there, he joined forces with the Otomo and delayed the Shimazu advance. Despite the arrival of these reinforcements, the Shimazu still had the upper hand on the field, and were besieging Tsuruga Castle when the Toyotomi forces camped behind them across the Hetsugi River. Ignoring Motochika's suggestion to await further reinforcements, Hidehisa ordered an attack, stating that the castle was their top priority. However, as the vanguard approached Tsuruga's walls, they were met with arquebus and arrow fire, for the Shimazu forces had already captured it. After a fierce fight, the Toyotomi forces were forced to withdraw, having paid a hefty price, as Sogo Masayasu and Chosokabe Nobuchika, Motochika's son and heir, perished.
Ooh, that
Having secured
sucks.
the freedom to move unobstructed, the Shimazu forces captured Funai Castle. Hidehisa, whom Hideyoshi regarded as personally responsible for this catastrophe, was stripped from all titles and lands and was sent into exile.
Dang.
Despite this blunder, Hidehisa and Motochika had served their purpose, in that they had bought enough time for the main body of the Toyotomi army to travel from Honshu to Kyushu.
Okay, I have to give it to them. They actually did really well there, but if Hideyoshi is personally leading now, then yeah, I think the fortune's about to swing in the other way, you know what I mean?
Troops from 77 daimyo, Hideyoshi amassed an enormous host of around 250,000 men, a force which grew even larger with the levies of the local Kyushu lords that opposed Shimazu rule.
Dang.
After crossing into the northernmost part of the island, which the Shimazu swiftly abandoned out of fear, Hideyoshi split his forces in two. Hidinaga would lead his regiment from the eastern road that passed through Bungo, while Hideyoshi would take the western approach. This road brought the Kanpaku first against the Akizuki clan in Chikuzen province, where he laid siege and captured Ganjaku Castle. Following the equally swift capture of the main seat of the Akizuki at Oguma, the clan joined Hideyoshi's side. Many other clans followed suit, as Hideyoshi moved his troops south towards Kagoshima, the seat of the Shimazu clan. On the other side of the island, Hidinaga had crossed from Bungo into Hyuga and laid siege to Takashiro Castle, where the Shimazu put up fierce resistance. Shimazu Iehisa tried to relieve the siege at the head of around 20,000 men, and while he came close to dislodging the besiegers, he was ultimately forced to retreat, leaving the castle garrison to its fate. After securing Hyuga, Hidinaga moved to join forces with his brother in order to begin their final assault on Satsuma province. Determined not to go down without fighting, the Shimazu decided to engage Hideyoshi's approaching forces at Sendaigawa, a river that flowed just outside Kagoshima. Led by Niro Tadamoto, the 5,000 Shimazu warriors made an almost suicidal charge on the Toyotomi lines, but such was their force that they almost managed to break through and reach Hideyoshi's headquarters.
Dang.
The highlight of the battle was undoubtedly the duel between Kato Kiyomasa and Tadamoto, which ended with the former's victory, though Kiyomasa spared Tadamoto's life and retreated back to Kagoshima. Overcoming this final obstacle, Hideyoshi prepared to lay siege to Kagoshima. This battle, however, would never occur, for Shimazu Yoshihisa anticlimactically visited the Kanpaku's tent and surrendered the city without a fight. Just as he had done with Motochika, Hideyoshi allowed the Shimazu to retain control of their home province of Satsuma, as well as parts of Hyuga and Osumi, a gesture that the Shimazu wouldn't forget. All of the families that had supported Hideyoshi were allowed to keep their holdings, while Kobyakawa Takakage was promoted, since he exchanged the former fief of Iyo for new lands in Chukuzen, Chikugo, and Hizen. As we have already stated, even Narimasa was compensated with a small fief, but generally speaking, Hideyoshi did not disturb the status quo of Kyushu, and the clans continued to rule their ancestral lands, a move that earned him loyal vassals, if not friends, among the island's daimyo, and more importantly, troops to use in future campaigns.
This guy basically has Japan in his, in his pocket, bro. He basically is the ruler of Japan now. Again, Hideyoshi, bro, he's just, I keep saying this, but he's too good. He's a genius in every sense of the word, you know? Wow. That's amazing. Now I think his eyes are gonna wander upward. I'm wondering if him and Ieyasu are gonna get into another conflict. That's what I'm wondering. But he just has overwhelming, he can assemble armies of 200,000 now. Like no one can beat him on the field now. That I think that time is past. If he does assemble his host. But my goodness.
With Kyushu brought to heel, the western part of Japan now answered to Hideyoshi. But in the east, there were still powerful lords that defied his rule. During the course of 1586, Tokugawa Ieyasu had repaired his relations with Hideyoshi to some degree, but he also had ties to the Hojo of Kanto, who still hadn't submitted.
Dude, Ieyasu's gonna get into another conflict with him, is he? I feel like it's almost like these guys are gonna go at it again. But again, Hideyoshi, as he just said, he has Western Japan. He can assemble massive armies. I think the time of stopping him is kind of over. He's almost too, it's like when you're playing Total War, and then late game, you're just so powerful that no one can realistically challenge you. That's kind of where I got into the Seleucid Empire run. I basically conquered the entire east of the map, and all the west are just these minor fractions of powers that they used to be. So no one can realistically challenge me. That's what I call the late game Total War stages that I was in with the Seleucid Empire. I feel like Hideyoshi is in that stage of his career. I mean, granted, there could be maybe greater challenges in the east. I guess we'll find out, but I just feel like at this point he's almost unstoppable. I guess we'll find out, but I'll end the episode right here, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with the next one. Bye, everyone.